Slime by Joseph Payne Brennan. Background information from Wikipedia. Joseph Payne Brennan, December 20, 1918 to January 28, 1990, was a prolific American writer of fantasy and horror fiction, and also a distinguished poet. Of Irish ancestry, he was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and he lived most of his life in New Haven, Connecticut, and worked at the Sterling Memorial Library of Yale University for over 40 years. Brennan published several hundred short stories. Estimates range between 400 to 500, 2 novellas, and reputedly thousands of poems. His stories appeared in over 200 anthologies and have been translated into German, French, Dutch, Italian, and Spanish. Brennan's first professional sale came in December 1940 with the publication of the poem When Snow is Hung, which appeared in the Christian Science Monitor Home Forum, and he continued writing poetry up until the time of his death. As a horror writer, Brennan started out writing stories for Weird Tales in 1952, and then began publishing his own magazine, Macabre, which ran from 1957 to 1976. Several of his short story collections concern an occult detective named Lucius Leffing, in the vein of Carnacki and Algernon Blackwood's John Silence. His 1958 collection, 9 Horrors and a Dream, containing classic stories like Slime, which has been reprinted at least 50 times, and Canavan's Backyard, is celebrated in an essay by Stephen Gallagher in the book Horror, 100 Best Books, edited by Stephen Jones and Kim Newman. Stephen King has called him a master of the unashamed horror tale. Don Diamasa considers that his stories were noteworthy for their effective development of suspense and terror, without the excess of violence which characterize modern horror fiction. Brennan's stories, though scarce and mostly out of print today, are widely considered by horror fiction enthusiasts to be classics. His best-known story, Slime, follows a protoplasmic life form as it ascends from its home deep within the ocean and begins to prey upon coastal residents of a small New England town. Not only has this story been republished more than any other Brennan story, many modern horror authors seem to have borrowed heavily from it. Authors such as Dean Koontz in his novel Phantoms, which features a remarkably similar creature, and Stephen King in his short novelette The Raft, which also features a blob-like water-dwelling organism. In 1958, a film was released called The Blob, which featured a monster remarkably similar to the monster in Slime. Brennan brought a lawsuit against Paramount for copyright infringement in regards to their release of the film The Blob, starring Steve McQueen, and apparently received a minor settlement. However, according to a watered-down version of the court proceedings, since the pulp magazine Weird Tales was not named in the suit, Brennan's claims lacked a substantive weight. Les Daniels stated in his book, Living in Fear, that since Weird Tales was legally defunct, the author has gone virtually unrewarded.